So your worst supplier is not the most expensive one. It's the one that fails and ships defective parts. And so this KPI is going to expose your supplier right here by category risk. So you can stop treating vendors as good or bad and just start managing them more strategically. And so what we have in this data set, and if you want this data set, there's a link to download it, but it's a pretty straightforward data set. It's just, has your receipt, has your PO number, and then, what you received. And then the main things that we want are going to be these two: how many you received, and then the quantity defective. And then also we need the supplier. So this column, part category, how many received, how many were defective. And so if you don't have any type of data set, it's going to be worth it to create something like this, because this is a valuable KPI. Okay, so what we're going to need is we need to get a unique list of your parts and a unique list of your suppliers. And so the way we do that is what we can do is I can just type in, say, part category here, and then equals unique. And then here we have right here your part category. And then what I'm going to do, and you don't have to do this, but I like to have them sorted alphabetically. It's just easier on the eyes because you know what you're looking for, and essentially the first letter just to make it easier. And so all you have to do is just wrap that with the sort function, and then you have that. I'm going to copy and then paste his values by pressing Control-Shift-V. And then the next thing we want is we want a unique list. And this time I'm not even going to go to the other sheet, but we want a unique list of the supplier. And so once you know your table name, which is supplier defects in this example, then you don't even have to go to the sheet, because everything, equals table. And then once you open your bracket, you can see all the columns here. And then you can just pick which column you want. It just saves time. And then again, same thing, gonna sort this. And then the last thing is I want to transpose this across the top, meaning I want the suppliers here, and I don't want to have to click and drag everyone. And so because we're still in the dynamic range here, we can use the transpose function to transpose it across the top. Now copy and then Control-Shift-V to paste. Okay, so let's walk through the math here. So what we're going to need is on the numerator, we want the defective count by part and by supplier. And then in the denominator, we want the total count, how many products were shipped by part and supplier. And so we have that information here, how many were received and how many were defective. And so essentially we want to sum this by part, by supplier, and then divide it by this, the quantity received by part and by supplier. And so let's walk through this. So again, we need to sum if. We want the sum of the defective parts if the supplier was carrier and if the part was a blowers. And so equals SUMIFS, sum if. And so the first thing is the table. And we know it is the quantity defective detected, comma. And then now we need to bring in the supplier and the category. And so again, table, and this part doesn't matter. The sequencing here doesn't matter. Just the first thing needs to be the value column that you're trying to sum. And then the next one is going to be, I'll just do the part category, and it's cell B3, comma. And then finally the supplier, which is cell C2, comma, C2. Okay, so this is the numerator. So we have 5. And so now we want, let me just center everything. Now we want the denominator. And the denominator is just the total quantity, right? But it's the same two other criteria. So what we can do is we can just copy this and divide by the same thing, but just fix this here. So instead of summing the defective, we want quantity shipped. Let's see, quantity received. And now you have a percentage, 0.9%. If you press Control-Shift-5, then that will format it as a percent. And now we want to drag this over, drag this down, and you'll notice we're going to get errors. And the reasoning is because right now this is what's called relative references, meaning, and I'll show you, like this is off the carrier right here, right? And that's what we want. But as we drag it down, it goes down, and we don't want that. And then for this, you can see the blue sort of, like we're going off the part category, but as we go over, the formula goes with it. And so that's called relative references. And we want absolute referencing. And so anywhere you see the column, the blue here, although yours could be different colors, put a $sign before the column, which is the letter. And then for the row, where you want to lock the row, the red, meaning as you drag it over, you do want it to change, but as you drag it, up and down, you do not want it to change. Then put the $sign before the column, before the row, which is the number, right? You would not, in Excel, the columns are letters and the rows are numbers. Like you would never say, oh, it's in row B, right? You would say column B. Or, oh, it's in column 2. No, it's like in row 2. And so that's good there. And then also make sure to copy it, because if you drag it over, it's the same problem because of the table. And that's you can see defective detected, and then you can see it changes. And that's just the nature of tables. But the way around it is just copy and then paste. And you'll see right off the bat there's some errors. And what that means is that there was nothing shipped that month. You didn't receive any thermostats from Daikin, or you didn't receive any motors from Trane. And so what we can do to remove that error is before we can type in if error. And then at the very end, put a comma and then quotations and say a dash. Or you can put 0, you can put, whatever. And again, copy and then paste that over. And now you can see the dash. And then a couple more things we want to do. Overall here. Overall here. So this is going to tell you the overall of the part at the part level. In the data set, it's taking out the carrier, and then this is going to do the carrier and take out the part. In other words, what percent of carrier supply or of Daikin or of Linux were defective overall, regardless of the part. And the cool thing is that you can just copy this formula. You can just copy and you can paste, and we just have to strip out the section of the parts. So anywhere you see parts here, like here, you can just delete that. And make sure you delete, you see how there's 2 commas here? Make sure you delete the comma, because if not, your formula's going to break. And then over here, same thing. Make sure you delete the comma. And then we have 0.5%. Okay, copy, paste. We're good there. And then overall, sort of the same thing. It's just now instead of stripping out the part category, we're going to strip out the supplier. So again, just look where it says supplier right here. And then take out that section. We're good. And then supplier here. And then strip out that section, and we're good. And then copy, paste, Control Shift 5. And so, yeah, that's how you calculate it. Pretty straightforward. I mean, of course, I'm going to show you how to do the heat map, but this is sort of the hardest part. And so, yeah, the main thing is just to make sure you have your defect rate, your defect count and your quantity received count. Okay, so now, if let's just say we want to flag things that are over, let's just say 1.5%. And so highlight everything and then hold down Control and then highlight this. Go to conditional formatting, highlight cells greater than, so home conditional formatting, highlight cells greater than, and then click on that cell. And then you get that here. Now you can see 2%, 1%, 0.5%, well, 0.005, right? And so that's how you set that up. And so finally, I just want to show you, because you might be sharing this with a team member or somebody, a colleague, and if they want to know, they might not know that this is a changing cell. So you can change this. Like if you were to, put target 1.0%, everything's going to break. And the reasoning is because now this is text, and we need Excel to read this as a number. So just type in again 1%, press Control 1, go to custom in your format cell dialog box, number, custom, and then make sure it's 0.0, because with this 0 here, you can do it to the tenths, the in the decimal, like whatever the decimal. I guess it's called the tenths, maybe the thousandths place. And then quotations, target, colon space, quotations, and now you can see it's stored as a number. And now you can, do it however you want to have your target. But anyways, that is how you do this. So pretty straightforward, pretty quick video, 10 minutes or so. And so as always, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, questions@databoards. And if you want this file, there's a link to download it. If you don't, if you want to calculate this for your own company and you don't have this file, it's going to be worth creating it. Service Titan, whatever software you're using, you should be able to recreate this. You just add custom fields. Talk to your IT people if you don't have something like this, but you should, right? You should have something that just says, hey, we received this much and this many were defective. And so, yeah. But anyways, if you need some help with this, getting your KPIs structured in a way to where you can get all these insights, then again, just shoot me an email or there's a link to where you can hop on my calendar, whatever's easiest. But if not, then I will see you in future videos.